Okay. OBS says we are live. What's up, everybody? For those that will be tuning in at some point, as I now once again frantically do the whole surprise notification bit. Always a fun one. Smith, how are you, bro?
I'm good. I'm excited for this episode.
It's our first one of the season where we have finally had some action happen. It's no longer
Mhm.
talk about what could be happening. It already happened. Let's talk about it and figure out where
Mhm.
we stand on certain teams, players, all that good stuff. This is going to be a
Yeah.
nice episode, and contrary to all of our other episodes, this is going to be a much shorter one. But I think if anything, it's more exciting just because again that whole element of stuff has already happened and we get to talk about it. So, I mean, how how exciting is it for you now that we're like fully into the season now?
Um, I'm really excited. I think one or two more weeks, and I think it'll really feel like the full swing of things. I think right now you got a bunch of good top 25 matchups, but it seems like the dynamic of some teams playing six or seven or eight games, and some teams only play two games in the first 3 weeks, and eventually, once that starts to even out in the next week or two, that's when you can start truly figuring out who's seems like the pretenders and the contenders.
Yep, yep, yep. I would say that we will really find out when we get to like mid-December. It's tradition usually, anyways. Yeah, I'm sure everybody knows the whole week six AP poll trend, and it's very similar, if not the exact same here as well. So, we're getting closer and closer, but that doesn't mean that we don't have stuff to talk about. So, genuinely going to be a fun episode. But I think first and foremost, while I'm getting this notification out before we get into all of that, I feel like it's like every single week something comes up, whether it's in college basketball or college football, and and you just sit there with your head in your hands, and you're wondering what the hell is happening to the sports that we love most. Um, for those that have been living under a rock over the past few days, um, Brendan Sorsby, the quarterback transfer from Cincinnati to Texas Tech, a little bit earlier in the late part of the spring, I believe, unless we call I don't know, early May, late May, summer at this point. Just depends on the people you ask. Um, it got revealed and exposed that he spent, what was it? It was like it was over 9,000,
I
$90,000 on gambling while he was at Indiana. What was that?
believe 90,000. That's what I heard. It was 90,000. I believe most of that was while at Indiana, but then some of it did trickle over when during his time at Cincinnati as well.
And I am
My understanding is that the Cincinnati part is almost the more damning to his case because that's when he was actively playing, which I think betting on your team or against your team or whatever it is a problem in itself. But then I guess when you're the fourth string redshirt quarterback, it's a little different than when you're the starting quarterback. And that's the argument that the NCAA is pushing out.
Didn't the NCAA initially rule, by the way, that he was ineligible, and then it was just, I think it was yesterday or a couple of days ago, that a state judge in Texas, how do I say it, granted Sorsby an injunction. I believe that's the correct terminology. I don't I don't know if it's the same thing as what's the other term, because they did this for Bediaco, where I think they how do I say it? They granted a restraining order on the NCAA. I don't know if it's the same exact thing or not, but either way, a state judge stepped in and said, "Nope, NCAA, your ruling is being trumped here by us in the state." And so as of right now, Brendan Sorsby is eligible to play, and I have my own opinion on it, but I I would love to hear yours. I mean, I not crazy. Hold up. There we go. My mic just popped out of nowhere. I hate this thing. What I was saying is some of our members, when you gas someone up, they call it like meat riding. Listen, it's not that. You truly have one of the better sports minds and just minds in general in Legends, and so I've been waiting to hear your take on this whole Sorsby thing. So, what do you think?
Well, I think initially, as a whole, before I even get into Brendan Sorsby's specific case, this is a defining moment for the future of the NCAA because it is yet again where the NCAA is getting it has their authority challenged by the legal system, Congress, the players, the athletic departments, and other entities. And whether you agree or disagree with Brendan Sorsby being eligible to play, the NCAA made a ruling based off their rule book, and if if they lose this challenge again, then you really have to start to question the authority level that the NCAA has over their own college sports, and how much. I mean, you've got this, and then you've got the Will Wade situation, especially at LSU, where they're taking advantage of the NCAA because they don't think the NCAA has the balls and has the means to actually stand up for themselves and put a stop to it because the NCAA has not proven that they are capable, both on the field and in the courtroom, to be able to stop and put and make an example. The NCAA needs to make an example out of Brendan Sorsby to prevent this situation from ever arising in the future. Brendan Sorsby bet on whether he bet on his team, bet against his team, bet on some sort of Indiana women's volleyball game. He broke one of the cardinal rules of the NCAA rule book. You cannot bet when you are a college student and a student athlete. That is the rule, and should not get any leniency just because he wasn't playing or because he was betting for his team. They need to make an example out of him, and they need to prevent him because college being able to play the argument that the judge made is that that Brendan Sorsby would suffer irreparable damage from not being eligible to play, and that is taking away his ability to play. I think that's the completely wrong argument. Brendan Sorsby, whether he bet or not as a student athlete, it is his right to be able to go to Texas Tech University and be a student there and pay the tuition and be a student and get a degree. That is his right. It is his privilege, however, to be able to be an athlete at Texas Tech and to be able to play quarterback. That is a privilege, not a right. And he by breaking the rule book and by betting on college sports has violated that privilege, and therefore it is not irreparable damage. He did irreparable damage himself by having that problem and by committing that crime in the eyes of the NCAA. Whether you think, I mean, Whether you agree whether it should be a crime or not, I think it's black and blue, black and white. It should be, but whether you agree on that or not, it is in the rule book of the NCAA that it is illegal, and therefore his privilege to play in the NCAA should be revoked. He has every right, whether he plays the season or not, to enter the NFL draft, enter this year's supplemental draft, and go whenever. That is his right. Whether teams will draft him or not, I don't think so. I think he could throw for 6,000 yards and have a Joe Burrow type season, and I still think there are a lot of teams and a lot of owners that would see him as a red flag for their organization and completely bypass him, take him off the draft boards. But yeah, he has a right to enter the NFL draft. He does not. It would be his privilege to be selected in the draft for the same reason as he has a right to attend school. He has a right to pay to apply for the school, to get accepted to the school, to pay the tuition to the school, and to attend classes if it follows that order. But however, it is his privilege to be able to play football for Texas Tech University or Cincinnati or Indiana, and he violated that privilege by gambling.
Simply put, just to kind of sum up what you said there, because I did not find anything there from anything that you said that I disagree with, because quite frankly, I can put a different spin on this. It's a it's a black eye on the NCAA once again, as they look like this. How do I say it? This abused child almost, who's how do I say it? It's like these state courts is like the drunk dad and just beating up on the child at this point. I know it's a crazy reference, but if you think about it, if they feel small, they don't feel like the NCAA. They feel I don't even know what to call them, man, because
Powerless.
they are powerless. They made a ruling. They said he's ineligible, and it takes one state court. By the way, I don't want to hear from Texas Tech fans that, oh, a Houston graduate made the decision. Oh, why is everybody hating on us? Why isn't everybody hating on Cincy? My personal take is this: when it comes to that, it doesn't matter at this point who hit what. I know Texas Tech brought it forth to light. The problem is that despite this ruling that the state court just made, they can, yeah, sure, they have the green light now to let Brennan Sorsby play, and apparently, he's not going to be playing for them for the first 2 games of their season or something like that. I just saw a report. Um, that's still a black eye on their reputation now. It may be Cincinnati's fault that they hit it. It may be Indiana's fault that they hit it, or they didn't know. I'm not sure, but either way, all three of those universities are at fault for not handling Brennan Sorsby's gambling addiction correctly. He should not be eligible, and quite frankly, I see this as a way worse situation compared to the whole Will Wade saga with what he's doing with LSU, purely because in my honest opinion, and you could refute this if you want, the whole gambling side of things. First of all, the promotion of it has gone wildly out of control. Yet you've still had these rules and you didn't change them. I straight up disagree with keeping that rule in place if you're going to promote the gambling side of things, but at the same time, the rules in place, you can't just let state courts walk all over you. You can't do that. And so I don't know what the next step of the process is, but they gotta just simply find a way to punish Texas Tech if they play Sorsby. He is now their problem. Cincinnati will get something. Will get something out of this in terms of a punishment. Surely they hit it. Indiana potentially. I don't know. Texas Tech. If they let Sorsby play, if he plays any sort of snaps this college football playoff season, in my honest opinion, any wins that they get from him playing should be vacated at later on, whenever that happens. And maybe and what they should do is a full-on postseason ban for at least this season. They should, but they're not going to. That's my take on it. So,
Well, and I agree. The other aspect that I guess puzzles me is not just the NCAA violation, but it's his legal issues too. Because in the state of Ohio, the legal betting age is at least 21 years old, and he transferred to Cincinnati sophomore junior year, which I'm on the older end, and I turned 21. That's not what. So he had. That's a question that I don't think has been brought up yet because everybody's more concerned about him on the field. But if I would be hard pressed if somebody looked into it and somebody dig deep that to find that he. I mean, if he was betting at Indiana, then I feel like it's beyond reasonable doubt that he was betting at the University of Cincinnati while under the age of 21, which is a crime. That's not a crime just in the NCAA, that's a crime in the state of Ohio, which that's something that I guess could turn the tide of this entire situation once because they'll eventually, I mean, I believe being, I guess, more negative side. I hate to initially believe the worst in people, but unfortunately, people tend to bring that out of me. But I think he and Texas Tech University initially announced this and said he was going to treatment and all that stuff because they knew somebody knew. They wanted to get ahead of this situation, and they wanted to pay him out as the victim instead of the villain. They wanted him to be painted as this guy who has severe gambling issues and needs to the extent that he needs to check himself into rehab and paint him as the same victim as somebody who's going through alcohol issues or somebody who's even legitimately going through gambling issues and drug issues and stuff like that. And I think they abused the system, and they abused the empathy of the human race try to get him to play. And I think and they did that to so that he could be painted as the victim, so that a sympathetic judge and a sympathetic jury will decide that he is the victim and that he should be allowed to play and that he had an issue, no different than somebody having an alcohol issue or a drug issue, and that him checking himself into rehab was him admitting that issue, and that he should be allowed to play because of that. That it wasn't him, that is not as much of him breaking the law as it was that he got addicted to something that he couldn't control and that he finally realized that. And I think that's sad because that's taken advantage of. While he may have had a legit, I mean, you spend $90,000 in how many years you have an issue yourself, but I think he and his inner circle in Texas Tech University are abusing and taking advantage of the people that actually do have those legitimate issues and and those people that actually deserve empathy or sympathy.
for sure. To close this
That
out,
I shame him.
yeah, no, for sure. No, I totally agree with you. And then just to add this on it, to kind of close our thoughts on this whole thing and then get to better topics. Um, when he got to Cincinnati, he was 20 years old, and he was a month away from turning 22 when he entered the portal, or when he left Cincinnati, whatever you consider that. So yeah, that backs up what you said about the whole legal problem back at Cincinnati. I'm very confident about that, and
And I don't even know the state of Indiana off the top of my head either. For all I know, it could be 21 as well, and that would create even larger problems.
regardless, there are more problems that will come from this, and the NCAA has got to put up, or at this point, I don't know, just be a background character, continue being a background character. We'll see how things go from here, but overall, the consensus is that he should not be playing. He should be done at this point. Uh, just go play a year in the CFL, bro. Just do it. At this point, there is no controversy going there. But yeah, we'll see how things unravel when it comes to that. But now we got, I guess, some better topics to talk about. And like we said at the very start of this episode, this is the first regular season episode of Court Vision. And so we got quite a bit to talk about. 2.5 weeks of action officially in, a whole bunch of results that, how do I say it, have, I'd say, started to solidify the opinions that we have had for certain teams. And then there have been some results that have, how do I say it, shook them up a little bit. Uh, and I guess I'll ask you, how do you want to go about reviewing weeks 0 through 2? How do you want to go about it?
I think it makes sense just to go in order and at least by week,
Sure.
section them off into the 3 weeks.
Okay. Sounds good. That's what we'll do. And I know how we're gonna do that. So we're gonna start off with talking about week 0 a little bit, just to give our opinions on what happened there. It was only half a week. It started on a Thursday, technically speaking, in the LSL universe. Um, and in that short amount of time, we still got a few very interesting results, and I think it's only right if we start with the very first game of the week of this season, where number 14 Michigan State, at the time number 14, went over to Duke, who was ranked number 9 at the time. We had a feeling this was going to be a good game. Did not know we would get an instant classic to start the season. The Blue Devils won this one 86-83, a one-score game. What did this tell you about these two teams, or maybe just one of these teams?
Well, I mean, naturally at the beginning of the season, it does not create a concrete um, prediction for the rest of the season. Both teams will inevitably grow and become completely different teams even by January. But I do think, at least off the bat, you praise Duke for being able to win. You pray for winning at home. You praise Michigan State for going on the road, and it was a simple top 15 matchup that went back and forth and ended in a one possession game. You couldn't ask for anything more, and I don't think it should look on Michigan State in a negative way at all. But I also don't think necessarily it it puts Duke in a category that we didn't think they were to begin the season either, if that makes sense.
No, that makes
I think it
sense.
just kind of solidifies each other.
Right, and it's very interesting because these are two teams that underwent a whole bunch of personnel change, and and based on how we know these rosters, I mean, in a way, it played out kind of how I expected it. We said how how Duke's front court is one of the best, if not the best, in the entire country, and Michigan State, even though they have all these new faces, these are grizzled veterans who have proven to be some of the best mid-major players in the entire country the past season, maybe even past couple of seasons, and it came together almost. Almost. It's tough to win games in Durham. It's tough to win games in Cameron Indoor, and they came very close to doing that on day one of the entire season. So kudos to Michigan State for showing up for this one. But uh, yeah, it is. This was an important one for Duke to win. Would have been a shame if they lost this one at home. They got the job done. I can't really put any team under a negative light. Um, if you had to pick one other game from this half week that really caught your eye and how do I say it, stood out to you from the rest, which one is it and why?
I'll say alluding to a future topic. I'll say New Mexico and Notre Dame. Not as much Notre Dame winning. Notre Dame won. Notre Dame proved that New Mexico, that they weren't gonna be overshadowed. They weren't gonna overlook New Mexico, um, and I think it's a shame for New Mexico. It's a shame for Mountain West, the mid majors, that they weren't able to pull this off, because I think it would have been a monumental win for the for New Mexico, the conference, and mid majors as a whole.
It absolutely would have been. I wonder if if any of these like top mid-major teams, I don't know if we can put Gonzaga or Houston in the mix, but I don't know if they'll have another opportunity of the sorts. But they came very close, and at the very least, they proved themselves that they can hang around with the top of the mountain. It seems. For me. The one that stood out was the other ranked clash of that half week. I'm talking about Houston heading over to Villanova, and no, I'm not picking this because of how do I say your PTSD with Villanova. As much as I could do that, this game was a thriller. Both teams apparently were ready to shoot the lights out. They did. Villanova's difference. How do I say it? The big difference. The big reason why they are going to win maybe a few more games than they out to this season. It came true. Kyrie Holmgren's the truth, and everyone with a pair of eyes and some sort of ball knowledge knew this. He was the difference in this game against Houston. OJ James was a disaster guarding him, and the young supporting cast did what they had to do. So ultimately, this was a positive result for Villanova. Although I think I'm just trying to remember if it was that game or not that we had the injury, right? You know which one I'm talking about. The Truth Teeter injury. I'm pretty sure he got hurt in that game, which sucks, unfortunately. So it's not a complete positive for Villanova, but so far they've done all right without him. But we'll maybe be able to talk about what's coming up next in week three because that's an important week for them. But what are your thoughts on this game?
I think it says more against Houston than it does for Villanova, just because the OJ James situation. We had concerns for Houston's front court against non conference Power Six, and eventually the tournament against those Power Six teams that would have a stronger and taller front court, and that those worries were not squashed against Villanova. So that's a little concerning for Houston, especially for their tournament hopes. That's I mean, good win for Villanova. Kyrie Holmgren looked the part. For the sophomores for Villanova. looking like they're taking the next step, although early in the season. But I think it says a lot about Houston, unfortunately.
Hmm, to an extent. And I'll just keep it short and sweet.
As much as the first game of the season can. I'll
Fair enough.
amend my statement.
That's a fair thing to say. Uh, we knew the guards would come to play. And the rest of the team. Yeah, the OJ James thing. If they want this 1 year rental experience to work, he's gonna have to improve rapidly. In time for whatever their next challenge is. I'm gonna take a look real quick just to make sure I land on this properly. But based on everything that has happened, oh wow, they get like 3 weeks off. All right, enjoy your stay in Cancun, boys. Their next toughest game is against BYU. Okay, never mind, they'll be okay. All right. OJ James is gonna have plenty of time to get ready for March Madness then, but we'll see if the competition's good enough to get him ready for that. But I'm not worried about Houston otherwise as a team. All right. Um, week one afterwards, that was our first full week, and the game of the week in that one was a rematch of what many consider the game of the entirety of March Madness from last year. The rematch between Louisville and Kansas. This time around, if we want to consider this a series, I don't know if we can. It's involving different teams at this point, different personnel in many different ways. But I guess Kansas leveled it at 1-1 by nearly dropping 100 on Louisville in Allen Fieldhouse. I kind of expected it to go this way, at the very least, a Kansas win. I didn't know what to expect from Louisville offensively, so that's why I'm still not fully like, okay, I knew this was going to happen. I'm still trying to figure Louisville out. But something bad did happen in this game. And even though Kansas won, unfortunately their star transfer, Jacob Johnson, suffered a pretty gnarly injury that's keeping him out for, like, I'm gonna look at the return date that they gave us. So almost a month. He's missing almost a month because of a bruised kneecap during the game. They got the job done, but at what cost? What are your thoughts?
Kansas proved a point before, especially before the Johnson injury. Not not as much offensively, but everybody harped on their defensive limitations and holding Louisville to 79. I think that's gets the job done. Your offense is going to score 80 or more 9 times out of 10, and so that's all. I mean, that's all they need to do. They really don't need to be stout defensively. They have enough offensive firepower just to be capable defensively, and that's what they were against Louisville. They were capable. And Johnson injuries tough, especially as a senior transferred to Kansas for with the aspirations for so many things. And while it doesn't end his season, um, he still has a chance to go out and win a national championship, which he hasn't done. It kind of out a month kind of ends his any individual awards just because he's not going to have enough games played. Even if it is the non-conference, it kind of maybe not ends, but it severely hinders his ability to win any awards just because it's such a tight race and missing 6 or 7 games is going to be rough.
I'm actually looking through their schedule right now, based on when he got
Which
injured and when he's going to be able to return. I'm counting one, two, three, four. Did I skip one? No, I did not. So one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Eight. He's missing 8 games. Um that's almost a third of the season. Oh boy. Although let me see. Yeah, it's almost a third. It's a 30 game season for them. Yeah. Personal aspirations, if he had any in terms of awards, they're gonna be harder to come by, I guess. But listen, look, the one game that I worry about for Kansas now that he's out of the lineup and recovering, they have to go and face Florida, who is still ranked, by the way. They gotta face them in this upcoming week, and we might get to that. We might not. I'm not sure, but I worry about that game now. I wasn't as worried about it before. Now, to me, I'm putting them officially on upset alert. But at the very least, he's gonna be Lord have mercy. He's gonna be back for when they go to Marquette. That's later in December. Then they take a trip to Wisconsin, and then they have, I don't remember which bowl game exactly, but they have a New Year's Six bowl game against the defending national champs Xavier. I believe it's the Cotton Bowl. I don't, or no, it's the Fiesta Bowl. It's the Fiesta Bowl, I think. They got the Fiesta Bowl matchup versus Xavier. So it's still plenty of tough games left that he'll be back for. I'm just now worried about the Florida one. But when it comes to the overall results of this game, I mean, it's what we said. Kansas is LSL's Alabama. Score, and score. If the defense is there, even better. It was enough of it was there, but I wonder if we can credit that student section that they always get to have and get to bring in. You know, that atmosphere is one of the craziest in all of the sport. I wonder if anything had to do with that. So I'm still not really sure what to think about them defensively. I still don't like it, but hey, we knew they came. We knew about the offensive part, and they came through. Um, but we had way more games happen this time around. Of course, it was a full week of action. I know it's a tough one to look through and try to pick, but I guess if you had to talk a little bit about another game that flew under the radar a little bit, maybe, and deserves some spotlight. Who would you talk about?
We'll say Xavier and Gonzaga, just for the point that I think it really feel. I mean, Gonzaga, they lost to Michigan State only by 5, and say that was more of a respectable loss. But losing to Xavier by 20, especially what happens to Xavier the next week, really starting to. I mean, Gonzaga's got Kansas State, I believe, coming up. They wanted to. It's really starting to be concerning for them. Just I mean, you can't lose. You can't win them all. You can't win. We knew it was a down year for Gonzaga. You got to be able to. You can't lose by 20. It's. I think it says more how much you lost. If Xavier had come in and they beat them by 4 or 5 like Michigan State did, then it's a respectable loss. You hate losing the two ranked games you've played so far, but I mean it's at least something. But the fact that you just got blown off the court, I mean I think Gonzaga's proven that they're not in the top 25 tier, even if they finish the season 26-3.
I share the same sentiment, and to keep that little short and sweet because I have a different game I'd like to talk about. They got blitzed. they just outright got blitzed. Bad matchup against Xavier. They really don't have a good matchup against a whole bunch of teams. I'm gonna be honest. Really, the only team that I could see them having an okay matchup with, and this is gonna sound weird, is Kansas. I feel like they're built the same in certain ways. Um, but
Well,
I
I'll say this: I felt like one of their decent matchups going into the season was Xavier, just because Xavier's a little smaller in the front court, and the fact that Xavier just went out and said, "Screw that, we're gonna blow you off the court," just says something else in its entirety.
Yeah, they just got blitzed. That's all it is. Sometimes you have those stinkers, but I don't know. Just to follow it up like that after losing a close one at home to Michigan State, it doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. Um, for me, the game that really stood out to me uh from this week that wasn't the game of the week was I know I'm keeping it simple here, but to me this it's worth talking about. I'm talking about when number 13 Auburn went on the road to number 20 West Virginia at the time, and the Mountaineers got it done, winning by 11 by a score of 94 to 83. Um, this is a great start for West Virginia, and you will all see, by the way, when the Week 3 polls get published, you will see how far they have risen since the start of the season. This was an important result to get. It's not a black eye on Auburn. I think they are introducing basically a fresh backcourt. And the front court can only do so much, especially when dealing with a new 1 through 3 trio. West Virginia, not saying that they brought how do I say it, majority of their roster back. In fact, it's the complete opposite. But something worked. It's a home game. The how do I say it? Home court advantage does matter. It did. How do I say it? It did matter here, but ultimately, some of the pieces that I thought would click are already clicking, and that is great news for West Virginia. I'm talking specifically about Andrew Bowers and Darian Stewart. That duo, they are as advertised, and that is a great thing for West Virginia to see. And it's very different too. I will tell you, because they've been used to their front court being the headliner, being under the spotlight. This time around, they're backcourt oriented. And the beneficiary, oddly enough, the beneficiary of all this so far, I'm just gonna go over and just make sure I'm not talking a bunch of bullcrap. Um, it's been Lay Vanilla, a guy that I wasn't really sure what to think of. Um, at the very least, so far through the first week and a half, the dude has been cooking, cooking. I wonder how much longer this lasts, but clearly he's benefiting from this new backcourt just simply working. Um, Auburn, I think they will be fine. The SEC is not that strong. West Virginia needed this one, and they got it in a great way. And all of a sudden, that how do I say it? The doubts for this season, they are fading away. Although I will say there's still so much time left. But what did you think of this result?
Um, I think it wasn't unexpected. I think it was a good matchup. Again, with what you said about Auburn, I think the answer is West Virginia's new core came together a little bit quicker than Auburn's did, and that was the difference in the matchup. And this is a matchup that I could very well see again in March and it go the other way.
It could, it could. It's just based on how these two teams grow, but definitely when it comes to the guard play, and West Virginia's already doing what they're doing. I mean, just per the numbers here, I know they aren't necessarily fully updated, but they are updated in terms of what happened from week 0 to week 1. I mean, we're talking about a backcourt that's currently, what is it? They are scoring over 40 points per game, just the two of them together, and then over seven assists per game together. I mean, you could see higher from just an individual guard. You could, but everybody's doing a little bit of playmaking there. Apparently, their new stretch four, Luka Nowitzki, did not know that guy was a playmaker. He's averaging 6 assists a game. That's a wild stat to me, honestly. But
Mhm.
but either way, this is an elite backcourt. This is something that Mays has seemingly had before, but they just never played like it. This backcourt is playing like it. I like what this West Virginia team could do later on. Um, and now we can talk about what just went down with week 2. And the game of the week in this one was a good old in-state rivalry. Um, in honor of that in-state rivalry, before the game happened, I listen. I told everybody go and get your cheese curds. I went to my local Culver's and got me some cheese curds, so I'm already a level above everybody. And I got to witness this game. It was a great one. Marquette holds it down at home in the Pfizer Forum. 90-80 is your final. I'm personally not surprised by this result. I'm just happy that we got some good in-state rivalry basketball here, and honestly a good result. Wisconsin, yeah, lost by 10. I can't give them too much shit for that personally. I think honestly it just shows what they're lacking a little bit compared to Marquette, and it reflected in the rankings leading up to this game, and it reflected in the result. But what were your personal thoughts on this outcome?
I think this matchup was good for college sports. Altogether, it's anytime you can get a fringe, almost top 10 matchup between two in-state rivals is, especially when in the non-conference when they don't play each other every single year, is always good. And the animosity that it can create is what builds college sports and what builds rivalries. And seeing that and seeing it was a 10-point game, but honestly, for most of the game, it felt closer than that. And it was a matchup that it was worth watching, and I think hats off to Wisconsin. Wisconsin played Marquette well. I think, admittedly, a little better than I initially thought they would. So I think this says a lot about Wisconsin, even in a loss.
I've always known Wisconsin had a really good core, and I think that when they brought in Ariku Krozovic to be their new point guard, I always felt like that was a good fit. And and I always thought that with losing a guy like Jack Hammer, um, that's a one of one player with what he was able to do on the court. Simply put, Jacoby Carson is no Jack Hammer, and Tommy John is just this defensive machine, this defensive stalwart. Um, and right beside him is last year's Julius Irving Award winner Robinoa Creed. I mean, I could go on and on about this Marquette roster. It's so quality. There's a reason to rank number 2 in the country right now. It could very well be number 1 depending on people that you ask. There is a crowd that believes that they should be number 1, and I would not disagree on that. Uh, but yeah, I mean this solidified for me first and foremost. Marquette's legit. The easiest takeaway there. And also for Wisconsin, they're gonna have to figure out how to play together this season while making sure that they don't how do I say it, try and do too much through Jacoby Carson. At the very least, let him grow into the offense that is now centered on or around. I don't even know the correct terminology. My dad always corrects me on it. But it's going to be about the guards and the wings. Uh, the two forwards that they
Playing
have
the
are
role.
incredible as well. Maya Mathers and Kenny Kirkland. I love that duo. Um, Wisconsin will figure it out. I think they're going to be just fine. I just I just worry when they play teams that have a better center than Jacoby Carson. They might run into that quite a bit, but overall they have the star power on their team to overcome that. And so that'll be a very interesting dynamic that we will get to witness for this Badger squad. But yeah, I mean, hats off to both teams. I mean, so far we haven't really had a whole bunch of bad basketball. I would say, in terms of like the how do I say it, the games that have captured the spotlight, they've all seemingly delivered. Um, but there were, of course, way more results that happened this past week. Which one caught your eye?
Um, I'm going to cheat a little bit and say two matchups in one just because Iowa played two top 10 opponents in the same week. Um, and I feel for the and if I just want to let Bubba Cunningham know if he ever schedules two top. I'm all for scheduling top 10 matchups. Don't schedule them in the same week, please. But the fact you, I hate it for Iowa because I feel like Iowa has an argument to be in that tier. But right now, I mean, you can't say anything other than the fact that there are tiers forming from the first 3 weeks of the season, and Iowa is a tier lower than I think they expected to be. Um, just because you wish they would have been able to at least eke out one of those wins. I don't know who against, but you wish that you would have been able to at least split it. And leaving that week, losing both of them, it kind of stings. I think they'll have plenty of chances, at least, especially in conference play, to be able to balance that out. But at least for the next couple of weeks, that'll sting just a little bit. And it kind of, while rankings aren't the end all be all, when you have limited data to go by, when you lose back to back top 10 matchups, it kind of hinders how far up you can go just because. And there's always that, well, it's hard to put them against Providence because Providence went in and beat them by 10. Hard to put them above Notre Dame. Notre Dame scored 101 against them, beat them by 8. So there's kind of that argument. I know right now that's not what's important to them, but that's what we have so far, and that's unfortunate.
It could eventually turn out later on that this was just simply them just not having the closing stuff, as some may say. But I do find this to be how do I say it? I don't want to be boring, but to me, I felt like this was coming. I've tooted Iowa's horn. I said I've liked this team. I just always knew there was a very good chance that this week they just would come up short against both of those opponents. I had a feeling, and I was correct. When you go to the dunk, um, that's a tough place to win at, and on the contrary, a place where you really wouldn't think of a college basketball at all of a sudden they're now hot, and that's just how it is. That's just how it is with Notre Dame and their ascension. Um, and it just shows that I still think Iowa's a very quality side. I still think that they are a top 16ish kind of program, a team in this season. We'll see if that holds, but yeah, I mean, simply put, Providence and Notre Dame showed just a little bit more than them, and all I can say to that is, well, they held down home court. That's what good teams do. Good teams find a way. Great teams find a way to win at home, even against the toughest opponents. Um, even spectacular teams find ways to win on the road. But we'll see what kind of road opportunities Iowa gets. For me, for me, I don't. This isn't to pick on anyone for this. This is just simply what caught my eye, and I think it is. I think we can consider it the second biggest upset of the season so far. I'm talking about Ohio State finding a way to get it done in a defensive battle against the defending national champs. Xavier, um, I said it before and I'll say it again. As great of a coach that Witherwolf is, he sometimes gets in his own way. It didn't happen for him last year. They won the national championship, but good lord, you expect better from a coach in terms of behavior, even from Witherwolf, and uh, I'm under the belief that that he cost his team the game with his late game antics. Um, late free throws that were given to Ohio State, and on the ensuing possession because it was a technical foul, they get another score, and Xavier with one more proper offensive possession don't get the score. They had to foul, and Ohio State does what they have to do to close out. I would say a very, I would say it was an ugly game just because of the score, but I mean still a win is a win for Ohio State. This was huge for them. Um, they they have hopes of competing in the Big Ten. I know they've taken two losses early at home to Alabama, and then they went on the road and lost to Gonzaga, which I just to mention Gonzaga real quick. Hey, at least they got a win from, from that group of four games that we talked about at one point. Um, this was an important result for Ohio State to get a top 10 win within the first 2 weeks of the season. That's huge. That builds confidence. We'll see what they're able to do with this. I think at this point, uh, with Xavier, my only real worry is when it comes to them playing teams that are just physically bigger than them. I think clearly put, this is still a very very good team. They just had a bit of a stinky night, and then, like I said with Witherwolf, he's got to find a way to calm down. He's the Dan Hurley of this league, except apparently he's got some sort of mafia, from what I've heard. Listen, these are just rumors around the block, but I'm now all of a sudden gonna have to pad up and protect my knees. So, but what are your thoughts on that upset win?
I'm going to paraphrase a quote, if you don't mind,
Go ahead.
that I think encompasses this situation. It was a quote that was said against Dan Quayle in the 1988 vice president debate.
Okay.
Coach Witherwolf, I've coached with Dan Hurley. I've coached against Dan Hurley. I know Dan Hurley personally. Coach Witherwolf, you are no Dan Hurley yet. I think his antics, he's not proven enough to be able to get away with that. You've seen Dan Hurley, especially in that Duke game, that if I think 99.99% of other coaches in any sport could not get away with some of the stuff he does. And while he is the defending national champion, he's proven that he can't get away with that stuff, and that stuff will come back to bite him. And so I think if he can calm it down for a little bit, win a little bit more, and then once he's earned that, like, there are certain coaches, and I think he can get there easily, like Bob Knight, like Dean Smith, Coach K, Roy Williams, that you give them a little leeway, you give them a little bit of the benefit of the doubt. Um, and I think when he reaches that point, which can come in the imminent future, win another national championship. Once he reaches that, then I think his annex can play to his advantage. I think him showing that type of spirit. I think right now, not.
Yeah, but you know, all I can say to end that little thread is
I
simply
just wanted
put,
to use that. I just wanted to paraphrase that quote, and I just wanted to find a way to do that. And I'm going to be completely honest. I didn't know where I was going with that after the fact.
totally valid. Um, protect your kneecaps. That's all I will say, my brother, because he will certainly this will certainly reach him. Uh, I'm sure his media team
Well,
is already on it.
I specified that I firmly believe he will get there eventually.
I do
I
too.
just think I just think I think right now it's a bit early.
It is a bit early,
Be
but
like Dan Hurley.
right. Shout out to Ohio State though. That was still a huge win,
Yeah.
regardless of the antics. Um, but man, I mean, this has been a great 2 weeks. Great 2.5 weeks technically so far, and I think we can maybe do a little bit of teaming up on this last segment on this shortened episode where we get to, how do I say this best? Look back at these past couple weeks plus half and pick our combined 10 winners and then 10 losers. And this is just another way of doing 5 and 5, but the purpose of calling it a combined one is to make sure that every single how do I say it, winner and loser that is picked is unique no matter who or what we are talking about. And so I'm very interested to hear your five, and I'll give you my five for each one. This should be a fun one. I wonder if we'll get a little humorous with this. We very well could. So start us off. Who is our first winner?
I'm going to say Duke. I think Duke starting the season with two top 20 wins. Um, their front court looks the part. I mean, Steve Reeves and De'Aaron Payne look like, I mean, averaging 20 rebounds, averaging, I mean, over, I think, 60 points a game between the two of them. I mean, there is advertised, and it's not against cupcakes. It's against Michigan State. It's against LSU. It's against teams that will be players in March Madness. So I'm we harped on them in the off season about just how good that front court is, and I fear that we, even as much as we have praised that front court, we still may have undersold it a little bit. And we talked about how the backcourt could be the downfall, and I'm starting to wonder. I know, granted, 3 weeks into the season, still a bit early. Can Is the front court good enough where awful backcourt night does not matter?
So
And that's the question. And if that's a possibility, then we're talking about possibilities for Duke that were not as likely 3 weeks ago.
yeah, I agree with you on that one. Um, and to answer your little hypothetical question, so far the answer has been yes. We'll see if that keeps up. I think in the ACC it very well could. Um, Maybe other top teams to be determined, but we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. My first winner is the Big East in general. Yes, that is still taking into account the defending national champs being upset at Ohio State. They've all had, as a collective, they've been tremendous. These first 2.5 weeks. Creighton and Marquette are as advertised. Creighton, even when dealing with the injury of Mitty Gavin, who also is going to be out a month himself, um, they're they're still so deep that they're able to win by a few scores on the road at LSU. That to me is pretty impressive. Marquette, as we talked about, they've been doing their thing. Providence looks strong. Villanova has had a great opening to their season, and the other teams behind the scenes are just simply doing what they need to do. St. John's, they're winning the games that they're supposed to. Same with Georgetown, UConn, they're doing what they're supposed to do. Even Seton Hall, minus the loss to Rutgers, they're somehow keeping up. So yeah, Big East to me is like my first winner, or I guess our second winner. Who's next for you?
I'm gonna say Deuce Sinclair. We talked about Notre Dame and that certain players need to step up, and so far I think Deuce Sinclair has taken that next step. Um, Early in the season, they beat Iowa, as we previously mentioned. He's averaging a double double, and it feels like he has taken that next step that we thought he needed to put Notre Dame in the tier that they wanted to be this season.
100%. Yeah, he's been very good. I was hoping that he'd break out. He certainly has. My next winner. This is a bit of a tough one to pick, I guess, in terms of order. But um, I'll go with one that's a little bit under the radar here. I'm gonna say Washington. I know they lost at home to Houston. Uh, in their first marquee matchup. It is what it is. Houston honestly needed that one to for their resume for the sake of their resume. Um, but then they somehow follow it up by going on the road and beating number 8 Kansas State. That's crazy. I did not see that coming. I was thoroughly surprised by that, and then they followed it up by I'd say it was an okay performance against Syracuse. It was at home. They only won by 12. Defense didn't really show up for them, but offensively, this is clearly a very gifted team, and I talked about how if they get the development that they need from their Frosh backcourt, then they'll definitely be going places sooner than maybe even they have expected. So that's my next winner. All right, who's yours? Who's your next one?
I'm gonna say the Big 12 as a whole. Um, they seem to West Virginia's win against Auburn. I get. We just came off Washington beating Kansas State, but Oklahoma beat Florida. Kansas had their big win against Louisville. I think the Big 12 has proven to have a couple really good wins to start the season, and then the background contenders are still, like you said, with the Big East.
Big 12 is definitely keeping up in that sense, and it's definitely, how do I say it? It's encouraging. It's encouraging to see what they've been able to do so far. Especially, I think I know the blemish Kansas State brings to this table just because of them losing at home to Washington, but overall they've been solid, especially up top. So like you said, yeah, I
I do apologize. I have to run to the restroom real quick. I'll be back in like 3 or 4 minutes.
okay.
Sorry.
I've had it, my man. Um, I will I will talk about this one pretty quick before he gets back. I'm gonna mute that mic just to make sure everything is good there. By the way, boys, just during this time, you can say something real quick. I'm sorry that I haven't been interacting with y'all. Good to see you, Eddie. O'Day's here. What's up? Creed popped in for a little bit. Good to see you. Good to see you. Good to see you. Um, yeah, man. I mean, this has been an awesome 2.5 weeks so far. There's still so much more basketball to come. That's the most exciting part. So I'm I'm excited. I'm excited. I'm just looking through something real quick. Oh, by the way, I'm gonna give this a quick moment to shout out the fact that we already have people joining the high school class for hoops. Apps just were posted tonight, like earlier tonight, and we're already filling up. For those that haven't been added to your group chat yet, I will take care of that literally as soon as this podcast episode is done. So I got y'all. I promise. I promise. I promise. I promise. Um, but yeah, I'll just wait for the homie to return after he gets back from the restroom. So, but yeah, man. I mean, this has been quite the start to our season. I'm excited for what's next. I think week 3, just looking at it, it's it's a little bit meh. compared to the first couple of weeks, but it's still there's still a bunch of quality games on there, man. I'm excited for them. So, and he is back. There we are. I actually waited for you to come back before resuming this segment. So, um, okay,
Thank you.
okay. So you talked about the Big 12 as as your third winner. My third winner in this case. Um, let's let's give a little bit of a spotlight to another in-state rivalry that just happened. I'm talking about Memphis and their triumph over Tennessee. Um, they had a heartbreaker early on in the season, like literally like early on. We're talking about
Mhm.
week 0, heartbreaker on the road at Cal. Um, and they haven't lost since. And this was a pretty convincing win over a Tennessee team that I have, I would say, some respect for, and think that they could do something in the SEC. Uh, Absolutely big win for Memphis. I don't know what other high major wins they'll be able to pick up before American play starts, but at the very least, they got this one. They got one for bragging rights, and it'll still do good things for their overall resume later on. So I'll give Memphis a shout out there. Who's your next winner?
I'm gonna say Morez Woods. I know we talked about him again being a guy that makes that freshman to sophomore leap, and there's no sophomore slump. He's taken in that starting role, and he's doing exceptional. I mean, I even in their loss against Washington, he's still averaging 30 a game, and he is really stepping up and proving why he's the number one. He was the former number one overall recruit, and why I said you should buy stock in him as before the season, because he's going to be up for some national awards, if not this season, for the next couple seasons.
Yeah, yeah. Um, the lowest point that he had in terms of stocks is already in the wayside already. It only took a couple of weeks. Enjoy paying premium if you want them stocks, fellas, for more as Woods. My next winner, I'm gonna say Notre Dame. I know you said Deuce Sinclair specifically, but in my how do I say it? In my extended opinion on his team, uh, look, they found a way to beat Iowa. This was something that they needed to like prove themselves. I know Iowa. This was their second game in 3 days, both on the road. I get it. Iowa's still a quality team. Notre Dame still had to show up. They still had to make sure that they were ready offensively. Providence was able to shut Iowa down in terms of Iowa's offensive standards. Notre Dame, not necessarily, but they had the firepower with them, and that's important. That is so important for an Irish team that has these huge how do I say it? These huge goals for the season, as they should. And so I think and so that result was absolutely important. They got the dub, 8 point win. They scored over 100. Defense was not there that game, but you always I always have a feeling that when it comes to games against Iowa, very few teams will be able to really stop them. So yeah, Notre Dame's a winner for me. But I think this leaves us with two more. Who you got?
It's unfortunate circumstances, but I'm going to go with Brandoni Skywalker, who is now having to take up the mantle of starting in place of Jacob Johnson. And while he's no Jacob Johnson yet, it gives him a little bit of a controlled environment of starting immediate as a freshman. I mean, outside of the Florida game, all the rest of the games are easily winnable. So he does not. It's not like it's during during Big 12 schedule stuff like or games like that, he does have a little bit of a controlled environment where he can learn and grow. And I think while it may not translate this year, I think it should help him for the immediate future start at a little bit of a higher place than most other sophomores and juniors when they eventually get their starting role.
Yeah, ultimately, yes, unfortunate circumstances, like you said, but the opportunity to play extended minutes while Jacob Johnson is recovering is gonna help his development for sure. I won't try and speak to what this will do for Kansas in the short term and what it looks like for them, but this is just a great opportunity for Skywalker. He is looked at as like the next guy to lead the Kansas front court, and this is a good start for him here already in his freshman year. He's already going to get starting opportunities, barring an unfortunate circumstance, or how do I say it? Even when you talk about the unfortunate circumstance. All right, I gotta pick one more winner myself. You know what? I'll just I'll take the easy way out on this. Man, everybody's a damn winner. College basketball is back. I know it's a cheeky one. I know it's the easy way out. Bro, we're all winners. The sport's back. The games are back. The feeling is back. Like, this is what we wanted for so long, and we're here. So, I know, a little bit of a cheat code there, but yeah, that's everybody. The LSL community is the final winner of this 2.5 week stretch. But now we gotta talk about some of the losers. I know we gotta get a little negative here, and if we, how do I say it, take shots at anyone at all, just know it is out of pure respect, and we're just simply, how do I say it, acknowledging what is currently, if that makes sense. So I'll let you start off. Who's your first loser?
I'll start out with Kansas and Jacob Johnson. Train. It was always it's always hard for a transfer to come in and immediately fit in with the established roster, but missing extended time and missing at minimum 8 to 10 games. When you only have one season left, makes it that much more difficult to be able to build a continuity with your teammates in his case the starting lineup. And I think they'll eventually get it figured out, but I do think it seems like Jacob Johnson may be back for some of the bigger non-conference games they had. Kansas has later on against Marquette and Xavier, and but I mean it's not the same as a 12-game sample size of building with each other. It'll be his first or second game back at best. So that's disappointing, and I think that's disappointing for all of college basketball because and Kansas could still be. I mean Kansas, but I do think a fully healthy, fully incorporated Jacob Johnson against Marquette and against Xavier is a heck of a matchup, and the even the chance of that not being as maxed out as it could be is disappointing for all fans just wanting to watch a top five matchup.
Unfortunately, yeah, yeah, I agree with that sentiment, and we hope just for the sake of the quality of those games when he does return that he is indeed fully good to go. You never know. Sometimes returns are rushed. You never know. Um, for me, I'm gonna go the easy way and get this one out the way. Um, you start 0-5, you're my first loser. UNLV. That's what you get for scheduling that non-conference part of your season. Um, I thought maybe there was a chance they'd beat USC, and oddly enough, that is the closest they've come to beating anyone so far in their 0-5 start. Horrid. I didn't expect anything out of this team, anyways, this season. I still thought they'd maybe at least pick up one win by this point. Yeah. Nope, not even that. UNLV gets my first loser spot. Who's next for you?
I'm gonna go with get this one out of the way because I mentioned it earlier. Disappointing that New Mexico, it's a missed opportunity against Notre Dame. Um, Notre Dame should have won. Notre Dame's the better team, but you can't help but feel when you get so close and and when you get Notre Dame on the ropes like that to lose by 4 in heartbreaking fashion, it is extremely disappointed in. It's I think it could be the difference between a seed line later in the season. I mean, Notre Dame very well could be a 1 or 2 seed, and New Mexico, and if having that win on their resume not only would have helped New Mexico, but it would have helped the Mountain West with the power index and all that and all those data points that a win against a top 5 to 7 team would create. So I mean, I hate to put them at losers because New Mexico was an unranked team that lost to number 7 Notre Dame, but when you get that close, it feels more like it feels like a missed opportunity rather than being necessarily a loser.
Sure, understandable. I personally won't give him a whole bunch of shit, so to say, just because it was on the road. I know it's a missed opportunity, but I have a little bit of
It's
perspective to it.
disappointing that I know I respect them enough that I think it's disappointing that they weren't able to pull this off. And I like Notre Dame, I like Coach Pike, but when you get that opportunity and it's so close and they can't pull it off, it sucks for college. But it sucks as just a fan of the sport that a big upset like that just was within their grasp and wasn't able to be finished off.
They will have a couple more opportunities. Just looking at their schedule. Yeah, they beat Texas Tech, but I don't think much of Texas Tech anyway. So yeah, they got their high major win, but
Michigan State.
they'll have two more opportunities to get that marquee win. They host Michigan State in almost middle of December, a little bit before it, and then they've got the Peach Bowl versus the number one team in the country right before conference play starts in Creighton. So we'll see. We'll see if they're able to capitalize on either of those. I don't know. I don't know. New Mexico is just a little bit of a different team. A little bit. Sorry, no, completely different. They have a whole new roster, top to bottom. They have a whole new roster. So I think they're still trying to figure things out, and we'll see how it goes for them. But I don't know. As long as they take care of business, otherwise, I'm not gonna really penalize them that much. I don't know. Maybe my mind changes later on. All right, my second loser, and again, I'm gonna go the cheap route. But if by this point you haven't won a game, you're an automatic loser. Syracuse, you are my next loser. They're 0-3 right now. Let me real quick just see if they should have I beat any of the teams that they have lost to so far. Okay. Ah, it's hard to fault them for these losses. They're just simply not a good team this year. They got beat by double digits at home versus Providence. They got beat by double digits on the road at Washington. And then they return to the Carrier Dome and get absolutely blasted by Arizona. Um I'm just gonna see who would they play next. Mississippi State. Oh, you should win a game, and maybe against Nebraska. But man, for a team that is not that good, this is the schedule is on par with the UNLV one. I'm not gonna lie. We gotta make a hell post for Syracuse apparently. Tell Minion that. Anyways, who's your third loser?
I'm gonna say the SEC.
Mm.
SEC had number, especially in week one, of potential more key wins that would not just help the winners, but also the conference as a whole establish themselves going into conference play. And the fact that they weren't able to win any of them is disappointing. I mean, LSU beating Duke would have been exceptional. It wasn't as exactly expected, but you wish Florida to beat Oklahoma. That was a close enough in terms of rankings that you expect, and then Auburn at home, Auburn on the road. Yeah, that one might. I mean, each one of them were hard games, no doubt. I mean, the fact that they were ranked matchups, but you expect as the conference to be able to at least win one of them and to walk away with an offer is, I get a little disappointing for the conference as a whole. Just because when it comes into you get into conference play, uh, an LSU that beat Duke is a better matchup for any of the other SEC teams that play them, and it'll help their resume. Or it won't hurt their resume enough if they lose. And so, kind of the trickle down effect of not having as strong of a non-conference play will play a factor in their conference schedule.
Totally get that. Yeah. Uh, I'd like to humor you real quick. Currently at the top of the SEC. Yeah, I know it's a bit cheap because SEC play hasn't started, but overall record wise, Kentucky is the number one team right now.
Yeah.
Just to humor you.
Oh no.
SEC has had it rough to start, but you never know. You never know. Florida has a big chance, I think, against Kansas, especially with Jacob Johnson out. Maybe the SEC finally gets something going. I don't know. But yeah, yeah. SEC has just had it a little bit tough. Um, ooh, ooh, another loser. I gotta pick three more. I mean, the easy ones went off the block. The easy ones are off the block now. I now gotta I now gotta get my brain cells firing here. All right, let's see. Uh hmm. This is a tough one. This is a tough one. Ah, sure, sure. All right, let's talk about them. Uh, my gosh, this may be the worst. The WCC has looked in quite a bit with BYU and Gonzaga and how they have started their seasons. Gonzaga's 1-2. Not much more to say about that. I know that their losses were to quality opponents. I get it, and I understand that uh that their one win, is against the team who eventually beat the team that blew them out. So there's that little circle there of teams beating each other. Uh, BYU had a nice little chance at taking down UCLA, missed it. I'm just gonna take a quick look to see if BYU has any more opportunities. Apart from Houston, I just don't remember. Would they get to host LSU? Oh my gosh. Okay. Well, we're gonna have a definitive loser after week three at some point. Just because of that game. Then they gotta go to Louisville, face Virginia Tech. Then they host West Virginia. Ugh. We'll see. Yeah, WCC, especially the top brass. Yeah, they're losers. That's my third one. Who's your fourth?
And I'm going to build off that and single out Gonzaga just because Gonzaga eventually has to play Kansas State, but so there's very real possibility that's three non-conference losses, and I think Gonzaga is putting themselves in the position with not having any. I mean, if Ohio State ends up being your premier win on your resume in that event, I think Gonzaga is putting themselves in the position where they need to have the automatic bid. And the fact that, and I can't remember a time in my lifetime where Gonzaga's had gotten to the point where they need the automatic bid to make the tournament. They've had down years, but I don't see a path, at least in my opinion, where 25-4 Gonzaga team or 25-6-3 Gonzaga team with losses against the three team the only I mean, with Ohio State being the best one. I think Ohio State is a really good team. But if that's their best win, then I struggled, and that's basically the only really good win. Then I struggle to see how you can argue Gonzaga into the tournament as an at-large. And building off on that, if they win the conference, I think you start questioning, do they get put into more of the normal mid major seed lines?
There's a chance for that maybe this season. I could say that about BYU. I'll tell you that. Gonzaga's is to be seen. Um, All right, I'm gonna do what you did. You said that the SEC in general was a loser over the past 2.5 weeks. I'm going to zero it in on the Tennessee Volunteers, who have only capitalized on one of their three high major how do I say it, non-conference contests so far this season, which is the road win in Ames over Iowa State, which is okay. All right, on the road, good, and they won by double digits too, convincingly. Um, Losing to your in-state rival by 13, it just eh. And I don't really know who was the better team going into this game, but afterwards it's like, yeah, maybe Memphis distanced themselves a little bit, maybe. I'm not sure. And then Tennessee also, how do I say it? I mean, it's not the worst thing in the world to go on the road and lose to North Carolina, but it's a North Carolina team that isn't North Carolina of the last 4 seasons. Um, Simply put, you would have hoped for a win here, maybe, but I don't know. You're still a loser just because of that. I mean, they're sitting at 5-2. It's not the worst thing in the world for them, but they could be ranked at this point with the opportunities that they gotten. Maybe. I'm not saying that they would have for sure, but at least they would have gotten consideration. And well, they got a little bit of ways to go there. All right. I think we got to pick one more each. Who is your last loser?
I'm gonna go with UCLA. I think I had UCLA in a high regard to start the season. I felt like they were a fringe top 25 team, um, and they lose to Providence. That's not a bad loss. You lose on the road by 4. I give them a pass on that. You'd wait. I mean, Florida's like you said with Tennessee, with a couple of those teams. Just Florida and UCLA are very even, and you'd like to. I mean, you that was very easily in their grasp. And then I'm going to build off on the fact that they beat BYU only by 4. I mean, it feels like that felt like a game that UCLA should have just gone in and dominated, especially at home. So the fact that they weren't even able to capitalize on that, and they eked out a 4-point win is disappointing too.
Can see your point there with that. Um, and yeah, I mean, it didn't help that afterwards they lost both of their games this past week. I Yes, it's against Providence and UCLA, or sorry, in Florida. I get it. They they had Providence on the ropes. Golly. So it's very interesting with this UCLA team, and I'll just extend on your thought real quick. What the hell do we make of them? So it's like they play up to the competition and then also down to the competition. What is this team? I have no idea. I thought they were
I
good.
think they,
Maybe I gotta rethink UCLA, but it's only been 4 games so far. Let's see how they do in Pac-12 play. Um, my last loser, and I know I can confidently say this because at this point I know I'm about to have to be carted into the ER in a day or two. Yeah, Coach Witherwolf, listen, bro, you're a loser from this past week. Just because of the sheer fact that you cost your team a game on the road against an in-state opponent. That was 2-2 at the time. I know we spoke highly of Ohio State, but still, my point still stands. And yeah, I know you and your band of hoodlums are gonna come for my ACL. So be it. It is what it is. But you gotta face the music. All right. I hope you at least you know handle this business with me man to man before you blindside me with a chop block kind of hit by one of your guys or something. I don't even know, but let's just put it this way, dude. Um, be smarter, be more, how do I say it, in control of your emotions, man. You won a national championship this past season. There is no reason to be the hothead that you are. Relax, calm down. Everything will be okay. Okay. And with that said, folks, I will start a GoFundMe so that I can get my future medical bills paid off after I get surgery on my broken kneecaps, because this is what happens around here with Xavier now. But yeah, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. I think at this point we both need to be worried about our kneecaps. So yeah, we'll see how that works out. Maybe we divert the attention. We get more people to do some stuff, and he's just got to target more people. Maybe that puts a delay on us. I don't know, but good lord, good lord. I just had to end it off on a little bit of a funnier note. In all seriousness, Witherwolf, DM me, bro. DM me. Um, Guys, thank you very much for tuning on in tonight for our first regular season episode of this podcast. I am absolutely looking forward to what else is on the way. Week 3, just on first glance, I would say will fly under the radar just a little bit compared to the others, but they still got some quality games there, and just overall so much more to come. Uh, we're only just getting started, and that goes along with the player apps that just dropped for high school. If you haven't joined yet, please join. Um, it's a fun time. Being a player in this league is a hoot, and and it truly is as advertised. It's a good time. You get the experience that we say you get, and ultimately, when you get to the big stages, you get to March Madness, man, it's just a whole different beast, and it's something that you'll want to be a part of. So, join up, guys. That's all I can say. Anything that you want to close with for tonight, Smith?
No, I'm just excited for the next week. I mean, we don't play this week. We have our own extended vacation of 16 days off, but get it out of the way now.
Yeah, I mean, you're in the midst of it, but although this upcoming week you are gonna be back at some point. But all I can say is
I think we play the last day of the week. If my
last
math is correct.
last 2 days. Apparently,
That's 2 days. Yeah.
apparently your AD couldn't get out of scheduling you back to back games, so you got to take that up with him. That's all I can say.
Oof.
Yeah, at least we're only talking about UMass Lowell and Bradley, so you should be fine. All right, guys. Uh, Thank you all again for tuning on in. The plan is to have week 3 happen this Friday, and we'll put up more stuff out tomorrow, aka the week 3 polls, and then on top of that, later in the day, the almost week 3 post that will go out to. So in the meantime, I'm gonna get those that filled out an application. I'm gonna put them into the new group chat that was made for the new high school class. So We'll get to it, and I'll see you all on Instagram. Have a good night, guys.